In Mexico, more than 90% voted in favor of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador's continuity in the recall referendum on Sunday. The turnout did not make the process binding. The Russian government condemned the possible NATO expansion with the admission of Finland and Sweden. Pakistan's parliament elected on Monday Shehbaz Sharif as the new prime minister of the country. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the Tercer Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Mexico, more than 90% voted in favor of the continuity of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador in the recall referendum on Sunday, according to preliminary data from the National Electoral Institute. Between 90.3% and 91.9% of voters who went to the polls voted in favor of his continuation in office for the remaining 2.5 years of his term, while between 6.4% and 7.8% preferred the recall, according to information provided by the president of the National Electoral Institute, Lorenzo Córdoba. However, the turnout was between 17% and 18.2%, a figure very far from the 40% needed for the consultation to be binding.
The voting percentage is between a lower limit of 90.3% and an upper limit of 91.9%. Citizen participation is between 17% and 18.2%.
And in a message addressed to the Mexican citizens, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador thanked the population for a historic day of democratic exercise in which more than 70 million Mexicans voted despite the obstacles imposed by the Mexican National Electoral Institute.
I am very happy because in spite of all the difficulties, a lot of people went out to vote today. According to official estimates, more than 17 million Mexicans, despite the fact that not all polling places were installed. Compared to 2018, only 30% of the polling places that were installed in that year were placed today, and that is 1/3 of the ballot boxes.
At the same time, President López from 90% of voters did vote in favor of his continuation, so he affirmed that he will continue to lead Mexico's executive power until 2024.
And I want to thank you because more than 90% voted for me to finish my term. More than 15 million Mexicans are happy and want me to continue until September 2014. What can I tell you? Love is paid with love, that I will never betray you, never ever. To the people of Mexico, I will never lie, I will never betray. I'm staying and we will continue with the transformation of a country.
Finally, the Mexican president announced that he will not seek re-election in 2024 and that in the 2.5 years remaining before the end of his term, he will work to complete the transformation of the country.
I will continue to serve until the last date of my term. I will not pass because I am a Democrat and I am not in favor of re-election. We're going to finish the work of transformation because in these 2 years that we have left, we're going to do it thoroughly, to lay the foundations well. We're going to do more between all of us, and to do more between all of us means to give preference to the humble people and to the poor.
Former Brazilian President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva began a campaign tour in Brasilia to discuss political alliances ahead of the October presidential elections. Sources close to the Workers' Party pointed out that the former president organized a meeting with a group of senators who support him. It is presumed that Renan Calheiros of the Brazilian Democratic Movement Party, Omar Assis of the Social Democratic Party, Assir Gurgash of the Democratic Labour Party, and Katia Abreu of the Progressive Party were present at the meeting. Later, Lula da Silva visited the state of Minas Gerais to talk with the mayor Alexandre Calil. The former head of state also toured Sao Paulo, Rio Grande, and 7 other states of the country. The former vice president of Ecuador, Glass, was received by family and supporters after being released from La Tacunga prison this Sunday. The former vice president of the Republic, Jorge Glass, recovered his freedom by midday after executing the habeas corpus granted by the judge of the multi-component judicial unit of Manglar Alto in Santa Elena, after considering that the physical and psychological integrity of the former vice president was at risk. Glass's release was scheduled for this Saturday night, April 9th. However, Glass' lawyer informed that due to the dactyloscopy process, it had to be postponed. The former vice president was received by hundreds of citizens gathered outside the La Tacunga prison in the early hours of the morning, awaiting for his release. In the Dominican Republic, all Haitians pursuing university studies legalized their residency status when they received the documentation confiscated by the authorities. Port-au-Prince's Foreign Ministry informed that the 206 passports with student visas that had not yet been issued have already received a legal status after they were confiscated by the Dominican government in May 2021, following a harsh exchange of declarations between the President Luis Abinader and the then Foreign Minister of Haiti, Claude Joseph. Likewise, the diplomatic representation of Haiti in the Dominican Republic pointed out in a press release that 1,205 visas and passports pending since 2021, whose validities had expired due to the delay in the procedures, were renewed. In the United States, 2 people were killed and 10 wounded in a shooting at a nightclub in the state of Iowa in the wee hours of this Sunday. According to local authorities, 2 armed men entered a nightclub in the city of Cedar Rapids. According to reports, the gunman began shooting at the people there. The events caused a stampede of around 100 people that left several wounded. Police sources say the assailants likely fled during the stampede. We're taking a short break now. Join us again for this. Welcome back to From the South. The French president and candidate for re-election Emmanuel Macron and the far-right standard-bearer Marine Le Pen will vie for the presidency on April 24th after taking first and second place respectively in Sunday's poll. According to official data, the current head of state obtained 27.6% of the votes in the first round, as against the 23.41% of the votes received by far-right candidate Marine Le Pen. Le Pen also said that if elected, she proposes to abandon NATO's integrated command, while her counterpart Macron plans to continue strengthening the military autonomy of the European Union within NATO. French citizens will therefore have to choose the country's course until 2027 on April 24th, in a decision that could imply a change national alliances. Initial polls indicate that in the second round, Macron will obtain 52% of support, while his rival will obtain 48% of the votes. After the results of the election day, the current French president and candidate for re-election Emmanuel Macron asked voters on Sunday to block the extreme right in reference to his rival in the second round to be held on April 24th, the far-right nationalist Marine Le Pen.
I solemnly invite our fellow citizens, whatever their sensibilities and whatever their choices were in the first round, to join us. Some of them will do so to block the extreme right, and I am fully aware that this will not be worth in support of the project that I carry, and I respect it. I know that this is a choice made, for example, by Jean-Luc Mélenchon. So during the next 15 days, spare no effort, because nothing is done. Let's be humble, determined. Let's convince each and everyone. On April 25th, we can make the choice of a new French and European era. On April 24, we can make the choice of hope. On April 24, we can make the choice of France and Europe together.
For his part, the leader of the insubmissive France coalition, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, in third place in the French presidential elections and out of the second round to be held on the 24th, asked his voters on Sunday that none of them should choose the far-right Marine Le Pen on that day.
We know for whom we will never vote. And for the rest, as I told you 5 years ago, do you remember that there was some damage after our declaration? What are they taking the French people for? They're capable of knowing what to do. They're capable of deciding what is good for the country. We will never lose our trust in democracy, so you must not give a vote to Mrs. Le Pen.
However, the French left-wing leader's followers consider the situation of having to choose between the two conservative candidates as a catastrophe.
It's catastrophic. We have again Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen in the second tour. We have to worry about upcoming debates. I'm so disappointed and disgusted. We won't be talking about social justice and ecology.
I won't vote for Marine Le Pen, that's for sure. I don't know. I will probably cast a blank ballot to express protest against all other candidates. I don't think it's the right thing to vote for a candidate, Macron, who wants to destroy public services, schools, privatize everything, despise French people.
Spain's Maritime Rescue and Safety Society rescued 46 sub-Saharan asylum seekers on Sunday who were trying to board an inflatable boat that had a puncture in the stern area. The Salvamar Missar vessel rescued 43 men and 3 women who were sailing in an inflatable boat towards the Canary Islands. The asylum seekers, in apparent good health, are being transferred to the dock of Gran Tarajal in the south of Fuerteventura, since the boat in which they were on board was an hour and a half of navigation from the island. The migratory pressure towards Spain increased during the coronavirus pandemic, and with the diplomatic crisis sustained until last week, with Morocco being the place of origin of 40% of the migrants arriving in Spain. The Russian government condemned the possible new expansion of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization with the admission of Finland and Sweden. The Kremlin denounces NATO expansion, including the possibility of admitting Finland and Sweden, stating that this action will not contribute to security in Europe, Russian spokesman Dmitry Peskov said on Monday. Meanwhile, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova stated that both Finland and Sweden have confirmed the principle of indivisibility of security as members of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. She also pointed out that the entry of Finland and Sweden into NATO, which is first and foremost a military bloc, would have serious political and military consequences, which would require a response from Russia. A Telesur crew traveled to the road Sila north of Donetsk. Until recently, the border between the Donetsk People's Republic and Ukraine is the target of constant shelling. This is what they tell us about the new life there.
This road has been here for more than 240 years, and until last February it received daily punishment from the Ukrainian artillery. This demolished wall was the last shell on February 24, the starting day of the Russian special military operation in Ukraine.
For 8 years, we were a frontline area, that is, literally 5 kilometers from the gray zone. Well, the surprise is the worst thing about the bombing. We don't know why, because we have no military in the village. Everyone is in the field, in the plantations, in the trenches, but not in the village. Why was this done? We don't know. Well, that's the situation.
This public school contains perhaps the essence of life in these regions. Modest, simple and clean. The students are not there now. The classes are at a distance as long as the conflict lasts.
Now we can be calm. There is no shooting in our village, but we still feel that there is a danger nearby. So, well, hopefully, let's say the children are already used to it. We are used to war, but nevertheless, that doesn't make us give up our studies. The kids are great. I mean, they show the desire to go to school, to participate in activities. We are used to it, and that's why we keep working, and so are the children.
The Stila Museum preserves the Greek heritage of its founders, who came from Crimea and Mariupol. But also the most vibrant memories of the anti-fascist struggle, which today motivate the struggle for survival.
My grandfather was a communist. He went to the front, and grandmother had 2 small children of 2 and 1 year old. My uncles and my grandmother were warned at night that they were on the redundancy list, that they would come for her in the morning.
Elena Kudinova has her husband and son fighting for the complete liberation of the port of Mariupol, south of the Donbass.
Now, my 18-year-old son is in Mariupol. They took away his childhood and they took away his youth. We are not against Ukraine. Let there be Ukraine. But those Nazis should never have despised the 22 million dead during the Great Patriotic War. Now, on the other side of the world, they see how they walk around with fascist symbols. Now, the whole history has been redrawn. The concentration camps have been forgotten. Everything has been forgotten.
In the distance, the cannons still roar, but here one can walk in peace. Religious domes and Soviet symbols coexist. They are united by history. Cristian Inostroza and Alejandro Kirk, Telesur Stila Donbass.
China rejected attempts created by the United States media to foster discord between the Asian giant and Russia and denounced that efforts to spread rumors about disputes between the two countries are destined to fail. Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman Xiao Lijian denounced that several Western powers, pushed by the U.S., have tried to link the crisis in Ukraine with relations between Beijing and Moscow to achieve strategic objectives. The Asian diplomat also rejected a recent article published by the U.S. media titled China's long-term game with Russia, which claimed China is waiting for the right opportunity to take advantage of Russia. We have more news coming up after this financial break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Pakistan's parliament elected on Monday Shehbaz Sharif as the new prime minister of the country. Sharif, brother of exiled leader and former prime minister Nawaz Sharif, also chairs the main opposition party, the Muslim League of Pakistan. The election of the new PM comes after Imran Khan was removed from office due to a no-confidence vote over the weekend. Sardar Ayaz Sadiq, acting Speaker of the House, announced that Sharif was elected prime minister after obtaining 174 votes out of 342 seats in the assembly. The election of the new prime minister on Monday will not, however, put an end to the weeks of strong political instability in Pakistan, since Khan has denounced that an international conspiracy is behind the no-confidence motion that removed him from office. In the last 24 hours, the Israeli occupation forces killed 4 Palestinians in the West Bank. Among the victims of the Zionist entity were 2 women. Israeli soldiers shot and killed a 45-year-old Palestinian woman west of the city of Bethlehem on Sunday. The victim was a mother of 6 children and was identified as Kada Ibrahim al-Ardedi. On the other hand, the Wafa news agency reported that a young Palestinian woman still unidentified was killed by Israeli forces near the Ibrahimi Mosque in the city of Hebron. During the same day, 21-year-old Mohammed Ali Kanim was killed in Nablus. Finally, the 4th victim is 17-year-old Mohammed Sakarna, who succumbed to wounds sustained from Israeli gunfire during an incursion into the occupied city of Jenin. And in the city of Ramallah, in the occupied West Bank, dozens of Palestinians also took to the streets in support of the people of Jenin and to express their rejection of the crimes of the Israeli occupation forces.
Today, Ramallah's message is a message of pride for our people in Jenin, a message of victory for the blood of our heroic martyrs in Jenin, and that we will not leave them alone. Today, the West Bank is surmounting its wounds. We'll one and united under the Palestinian flag to say that we will not leave Jenin alone. We will not allow the occupation to monopolize Jenin. Things are already heading towards escalation. Things are heading towards confrontation. What we have witnessed during the past 2 weeks has one title: Confrontation, Blood, Victims, and Crimes of the Occupation.
Dozens of Palestinians gathered on Sunday in the northern Gaza Strip to show their support for the people of Jenin, systematically besieged by Israeli occupation forces. Members of the Islamic resistance movement Hamas expressed their solidarity with the inhabitants of the Jenin refugee camp. Israel launched raids for 2 days, mainly targeting the residents of Ra'ad Hassem, who on Thursday attacked and killed 3 Israelis and wounded others in the city of Tel Aviv before being killed. This Sunday, the Israeli repression left 10 citizens wounded and more than 20 arrested. In this context, the Palestinian resistance and the Mosque of Jenin called for a general mobilization to confront the incursions of the Israeli forces.
From the Jabalia camp, we support our people in Jenin, who are now fighting the Zionist occupation, which is trying to storm Jenin and is trying to kill people, children, and women in Jenin.
Tehran on Monday questioned Washington's will in reaching an agreement to restore the 2015 nuclear agreement, with key sticking points unresolved after talks halted last month.
We really don't know if we will get a deal or not, because the United States hasn't shown the necessary will to reach an agreement. But we are committed to reaching a good agreement, and if we do, we will certainly go to Vienna tomorrow. Discussions between Iran and Europe, as well as with the countries involved in the agreement, I mean, France, Germany, Great Britain, China, and Russia have been finalized, and there are no points left to discuss. What remains are the decisions of Washington.
Indonesian police deployed tear gas and water cannon against thousands of students protesting Monday, extending the presidential term limit after rumors swirled for a week about a potential change to the country's constitution. The Asian country's next election is in 2024, and President Joko Widodo will not be eligible as Indonesia places a two-term limit on its leader. But senior ministers and several political parties last month suggested the election should be delayed and the constitution amended to allow presidents to serve more than 2 terms. Some students clashed with police, who rounded up dozens of people to be taken in for questioning. The debate on delaying the election and extending the presidential term has gathered steam since March. We have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.